We had lots of ideas and lessons that we took from Parshat Vayikra last week, and here we'll go with a couple of different um, ideas in regards to this week's Parsha, which is Parshat Tzav. So, firstly, the Parsha begin. Obviously, it's called Parshat Tzav, and the Parsha starts with um, with God commanding Moshe. And specifically, the word Tzav is used. Tzav et Aaron v'et banav. Command Aaron and his sons as follows. And Moshe is told many times to tell Aaron and his sons, or all of Bnei Yisrael, others, to do things, but it doesn't always say the word Tzav here, command them. And Rashi comments here that the word Tzav here is used, and it's supposed to imply zrizut, a sense of urgency. And part of the idea seemingly behind it is especially when there's the worry of sort of financial loss, and here the financial loss is the time of the Kohanim. We talked last week about the Karban Shlamim and making Shalom. The owner's happy, gave a Karban, but he gets to eat part of it. Part of it is offered on the altar to God, so God is happy, and the Kohen is happy because he gets paid for his service. He gets the Chazev Ashok. He gets parts of the Karban. But here it's completely burned, right? The Kohen gets nothing from it. And therefore, the Torah, in a sense, has to push the Kohanim harder than in other karbanot. In a regular karban, okay, so I'm quote unquote, I'm getting something out of it. I'm getting a piece of meat. I'm going to have dinner. I'm going to have a nice meal. But here, the Torah has to tzav et Aaron ve'et banav. We have to command you. We have to tell you to work with alacrity and urgency, because you're not getting anything from it. Real leadership, real kindness, real commitment shows up when there's no payoff, there's no honor, there's no money, then there's no recognition, right? People need more, one might say, encouragement. Others might say more push or charge when they're not getting anything out of it. And here the Kohen, in terms of getting something tangible from it, he's getting the joy of bringing a carbon to God. He's getting the joy of being able to serve in the Beit Hamikdash, but something tangible he's not getting. So we have this lashon of tzav, of ziruz, of urgency. We have to push them to do it, and really the thought in life in regards to it. Okay, a few other different ideas that we have. So one of the things that we talk about here is we talk about the Kohanim changing their clothing. Okay, when they would go to remove ashes, they would change their clothing to take the ashes outside of the camp. And we know that clothing is very significant. And right, they already sort of like, think of this: you have the garbage, you get the garbage, and you're wearing one clothing. But before you go outside with the garbage, I'm not talking about that you just put on a coat because it's cold, but you change your clothing. And the Torah seems to be modeling for us the idea that context matters. The same person can show up differently in different environments. When we're inside the Beit HaMikdash, inside the Mishkan, there's dignity, it's a ceremony, there's holiness. Outside the camp, it's a practical, messy work. And part of spiritual maturity, just maturity generally, life is knowing when to be formal, when to be casual, when to be, idealistic, but no, when to be pragmatic, when you have to dress and be quote unquote the Kohen, and when you are just sort of a normal human being getting things done. Part of the difficulty in life and the roles certain people have is when they're demanded to not be both, to be exactly the same at all time. But here with the Kohanim, what they have to do, they have to they go and they get the ashes and they take it out, but the clothing is changed. I should have read the pasuk for you. Pashata bigadav v'lavash bigadim achirim. He takes off the clothing he was wearing and puts on other clothing, different vestments. And he carries the ashes outside the camp to a pure to a pure place. Now, the Torah spends a lot of time detailing the Trumat Hadeshet, removing the ashes from the altar, and it doesn't seem like it was the greatest of spiritual work. It doesn't even seem like it's actual avodah. You're taking the ashes off. I was thinking about this. I wasn't thinking about it yesterday. I should have been thinking about it yesterday. The two inner lights of my grill weren't working, and I had to go and I had to clean it out. And, as I was cleaning it out and whatnot, I should have thought of it in this way. I'm getting rid of the ashes. And we were able to have nice grilled chicken for dinner last night. But, right, that seemed like janitorial work. That seemed I was cleaning. But here, that's not what it is. It's an actual avodah. The Kohen is wearing, right, his big day kahuna when it does it. In fact, there was fights. There was a lottery. The Kohanim wanted to do it. And there's beautiful idea that comes out of it. The ashes are yesterday's karbanot. The ashes are yesterday's spiritual achievements. It's not what was done today. It's the leftovers, the ashes from yesterday. There once was a fire. It once was an animal. It was once energy, but now they're residue, right? Part of being Jewish is you cannot ignore yesterday's greatness. Yesterday's greatness, a week ago's greatness, a month ago, a years ago's greatness. You can't ignore the ashes. It has to be cleared away, however, in order for today's fire to come on. So, right, in a sense, saying, right, you have to honor the past, but you can't live in the past. So we're going to treat the ideas from a generation ago and 2 generations ago and a year ago and 10 years ago. It's avodah to go and to the way that we deal with those ideas, but they cannot be all consuming. We have to make room to clear them away and not to ignore every day's fire. Remember, I don't know if I heard Rabbi Shai Held. It might have been him. He might have been quoting somebody else, but he might have said it doesn't prove you're not a racist if you have respect for Martin Luther King. Right? Martin Luther King was a great hero for civil rights. Many, many years ago, almost 60 years ago, he was killed at this point. And there are a lot of issues that have come up since then. Right? You're not a great paragon of racial justice if you follower of Martin Luther King. Right? That's true. It doesn't say not respect him, but that was yesterday's fire and other issues that come out over time. So we have to respect past successes and old identities and incredible ideas that helped our people. However, we can't be stuck in those past successes. We can't let them remain on the fire and not create a new fire. The Torah's model is respecting the past, but making space for a new fire. Beautiful idea, I think, in terms of thinking of the Trumat Hadeshet and the removal. Now, despite the fact that we have this removal of the fire, there's also, in contrast, there's also a idea of removing ashes. There's also a constant fire. Eish tamid tukad al hamizbeach lo tichbeh is pasuk vav. A perpetual fire shall be kept burning on the altar, shall not go out. We know in a shul we have a ner tamid to remember this. We have a perpetual light, and this is, if we think about it, it's not about the dramatic, the great moments. It's not about the spiritual highs. It's about the daily maintenance, removing the ashes, adding the wood, keeping things going, keeping the fire going, right? The guy, you go camping, the guy or girl, the guy who is able to start the fire is the one who's seen as the hero, but it's not just starting the fire. You have to keep the fire going. Judaism values steady consistency more than it does an occasional inspiration or a great moment. Part of the difficulty in life is not starting something, but is sustaining something. If we think back to our patriarchs, we had Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. Avram was the starter. Avram is the shacharit. He's the morning light. He's the beginner, recognizes God, calling out to people to go and to join this movement that he started. We'll call it ethical monotheism. Yitzchak follows Avram. And he does the same things. He calls the wells by the same names. He is a sustainer of what his father started. Fire represents the daily tefillah, right? Daily sacrifices, regular learning, long-term commitments. It's you can always think about it in a certain way, two different things. And we'll conclude with this is, right, Parsha Vayikra, the lofty karbanot, this sacrifice is here and this is there. It's like the moment the person brings the chatat, or the moment you bring this sacrifice. This is sort of the behind the scenes work that keeps it alive, that makes sure that there is a fire. It's the person who doesn't ask for the credit, is sort of the contrast between Vayikra and Tzav. And we see that later on in the Torah in a very striking way. Parshat Pinchas, we meet Pinchas, this Kohen. We meet him right before the end of Parshat Pinchas and right before Parshat, but at the end of Parshat Balak, when he kills Zimri and Cosby, and he stops a plague that's going on for the Jewish people. But in Parshat Pinchas, we have the reveal to us who the next leader of the Jewish people is, and it's not Pinchas. That's not who it is. Pinchas has this great moment where he saves the Jewish people from a plague. And it's this incredible moment. But in Parsha Pinchas, we're told the leader of the next generation, the Jewish people, is going to be Joshua, Yoshua, who was Lo Yomush Mitoch Ha'al, Yoshua, who was always with Moshe. Yoshua, who was closest to Moshe. Yoshua was known for his consistency, and the rabbis understand that. The rabbis, in an anachronistic way, they talk about Yoshua as being the guy who would come and set up the chairs in the study hall in the morning and put them back at night. Right? I don't know if the rabbis really believed that Moshe had a study hall in the way that they had a study hall. But it's the way that they define Yehoshua as being that type of person. He was the person who was there every day. He didn't leave the tent. He was next to Moshe, Nar Moshe. He didn't leave Moshe. He was with the tent he set up. He was there daily, regularly, dependable. And that's sort of the idea here, a few different ideas, I hope, that we can get out of it, related to Parshat Tzav. Because again, we think of the Karbanot. They are the way of karov, of coming close to God. And the question is, what are the ideas that we can glean from these sacrifices, which we're not doing at this point in time, in order to apply to our own spiritual lives?